Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. If you are new to this podcast, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and share. Let's jump right in. Hello, how is everyone doing today? Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Her Version. Today, I have an amazing woman with us, Shelby Shepard. Shelby's lifelong dream was to become a hairstylist. Everything about the industry was fascinating to her. After she graduated from college, she found herself exactly where she wanted to be in the beauty industry. Unbeknownst to her, her dreams and passions were about to come to an immediate halt soon after entering this field. Shelby is here to talk about a rare condition that keeps her from being around virtually any chemical, any kind of chemical aroma. Her story not only showcases how she struggles physically, but also mentally, having to wrap her head around leaving an industry she loves. Learn how this woman had to fight for her own sanity, had to recreate herself, and how she was able to move forward with her life despite this ailment. I am so happy to have Shelby here to shed some light on this. Welcome, lady. How
Hi.
are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me here. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to sit and talk about your journey. Talk about your journey. Your story was so inspiring, first of all, because I've never heard of this before. And second, just the fact of your attitude and your vibrancy, I so appreciated despite what you've gone through.
Thanks.
So
Yeah.
how are you?
Good. Very
Good.
busy.
How was your weekend?
It was good. I got to actually take a weekend off and rest and just sit in my house with my dogs.
Good. That's always a nice one. Where are you at, by the way? What state? I don't remember.
Denver, Colorado.
That's right. So is it snowing over there yet?
It's definitely in the 40s right now. It's definitely getting cold.
That's awesome. I'm in Florida, South Florida, so it is literally 80 degrees today.
I have a good amount of family that lives down there.
Isn't that crazy? It's so funny. Like we don't even necessarily remember what it's like anymore. My
Yeah.
my fiance now, yeah, we were at the store the other day and he was like, "Can you believe that they already have Halloween stuff out?" Not realizing that it was literally October. Isn't that crazy? And
Yep.
he was like,
Yeah.
"Can you believe
That's nuts.
Absolutely. So listen, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to sit with me. I'd love to hear your backstory a little bit before we kind of dive in.
Yeah.
College, how this, love for makeup and hair and design kind of came to bay and kind of go from there.
Well, what's funny is that my love of hair and makeup and all of those things started when I was really young. I always had a thing for makeup. My if my parents left me alone in my room for too long, I'd come downstairs with some funny, crazy makeup, like a scary clown or something. And so they wouldn't let me sit in my room for very long with makeup anymore.
No kidding. Did
Yeah.
you just steal your mom's makeup?
No, well, yes. Actually, if she was on this, she would say yes, I steal her makeup. But she gave me some. And then I remember there was one Halloween that all of the girls in my friend group didn't tell me that we were going as ladybugs. And so I dressed up as a medieval knight with a black eye and all.
And then everyone showed up as ladybugs?
Yep. Cute little skirts and everything. And I'm like, okay, let's go.
Oh, no. Oh,
So
no.
kind of found that I went by the beat of my own drum. Definitely.
100%. 100%. What did college look like?
I went to University of Denver down here, and I went for art and theater because I always really loved drawing and painting and all of those sort of things too. And I stuck to my guns about staying as an art major because, of course, my parents were nervous about me being an art major, not a business or finance or anything like that. But I stuck to my guns, really fell in love with doing special effects makeup classes in theater, and figured when I was trying to think about what I was going to do when I got out of college, I was trying to figure out how I could be a strong enough special effects makeup artist. So I thought going to cosmetology school would beef up my portfolio and kind of make me a stronger candidate too. And so then I went to cosmetology school after I graduated in 2012. I gave myself, I think, like a 2-month break, maybe.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I realized that I didn't want to move to LA or Atlanta, and figured out that I had a very natural talent when it came to hair, and was happy doing hair. I loved making clients feel beautiful and feel their best and really make them feel heard when they
Yeah.
wanted something with their hair. And so I went towards being a cosmetologist, and I did an apprenticeship after I graduated. So cosmetology school is 15 months. And so I graduated.
Wow.
Yep.
I didn't realize that.
Yep. It's
What
very
do
long.
what do they go over? Is that just like when you go into that industry, do you have to pick like color versus cut, or is it an entire industry?
It's an entire thing. And then
Okay.
once you're out of school, you can focus. So a
Okay.
lot of people do go towards like barber, or a lot of people do like color and cuts for girls and stuff like that. But
Got
in
it.
school, they're really trying to get you through the state board exams.
Okay.
So it's a lot of science and anatomy and actually some medical stuff.
Wow.
Yep.
I never would have guessed that. So
Yeah.
you got out of college.
Got out of college, then went to cosmetology school, and then I got out of cosmetology school and got an apprenticeship at a local salon called The Parlor.
Mhm.
And they had an apprenticeship where you assist the main stylist and then also take extended classes to better your training, which I really loved.
Yes. That's awesome. How long did that last? Or how long were you there?
So that's where I started figuring out that my lungs had an issue. I
Can you tell us, this is just so crazy to me because and I'm glad you're breaking it down the way you are, because when I was going back through our conversation and creating the flow of this, you went through the whole schooling and everything was fine.
So what I can figure out is that either my body wasn't worn down enough,
Okay.
or I wasn't around it consistently enough for it to trigger, because I was only in school Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I wasn't always around chemicals, because with school you're in class or you're working on mannequins, you're not mixing colors. Whereas when I was an apprentice, I was in the color room mainly because that's where we would sit if we didn't have a client to help take care of, or I was walking around the salon where there was a lot of chemicals going on.
Got it. So that makes sense. And you're there like 5 days a week.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I was there at least over 40 hours a week.
Okay. Well, that makes more sense.
Yep.
So a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, 6 months?
I would say it was only about like 2 or 3 months until I started having trouble walking and even talking at the same time. I couldn't walk and talk and breathe at the same time. It was all too much on my body.
Only when you were there?
No, it was kind of just consistent all around.
Wow. So you just would wake up and then just all of a sudden, slowly, you started to feel like weaker.
Yeah, it was a gradual thing, and that's why until I didn't notice it until it got to the worst level.
No kidding. Where were you when you kind of realized that?
Um,
Was there a definitive moment?
yeah, it was actually at one of the salons. We were walking from lunch back to the salon, and I realized how much I was struggling. And so I decided to go to, I didn't have a general doctor at this time. I was 24, really wasn't like, I was invested in my health because of I had issues, but wasn't at the level that I am now. And so I didn't have a true general doctor that I knew and trusted yet.
Got it.
And so I went to general care offices where I would speak to a lot of PAs that just kept telling me it was viral bronchitis that would go away on its own, but never.
Really? So when you first thought this was an issue, they just thought it was something going on with your bronchial tubes.
Yep.
And then they just sent you back to work.
Yes, they just gave me a nebulizer treatment in the office and then sent me back to work.
Did that work for a little while? Really?
It would kind of work, but not really to enough of a point that I saw a difference. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll go ask somebody else. And then I got the same treatment. Well, actually, I came back after 2 weeks when they told me if it doesn't go away after 2 weeks, come back.
Got it. So you go back to work.
I go back to work and I go to an ENT that I really trusted because he was great. And so I went back to Dr. Schwartz and I told him that walking down the hallway to the exam room, I couldn't even breathe. And he's like, that's not okay since I'm, 24.
Yeah.
So he gives me a list of pulmonologists that he trusts and he knows. And so I went to a pulmonologist named Dr. Lopez. And he, of course, goes, well, you're 24. It's probably allergy-induced asthma. And then he did a CT scan and saw how CT scan and a pulmonary function test, where my pulmonary function test was at, my lung capacity was at 28%, and most healthy people are in 80s.
No kidding. Well, no wonder you like him. Yeah, he actually took some time to sit down and figure something out.
And there's a double-edged sword with some of that too. So 3 days in, and this is in October, and I remember this exactly.
Okay.
It was in October, no, it was in December. And 3 days after he gets the scans and everything, he sends me into a lung biopsy. And nothing's conclusive. And so he puts me on prednisone for a month, and things improve. And I was on oxygen, but I still was working at the salon. So New Year's Eve, I made the decision to quit the salon.
So did you know, you could tell that it was an issue with the salon?
Yeah, that was his only guess. So the disease that I have, it's typically with farmers or people that are around birds. So a lot of people that own birds and stuff like that. So it's weird it's very rare for somebody working in the hair salon to have this get triggered.
Wait, why the farm or birds?
They're just finding that that's the most central people that get it. It's something with the birds, like feathers, because they even tell you not to do down comforters or down coats and stuff like that.
No freaking kidding.
Yeah.
And then farmers, what, the aroma of the fertilizers and stuff?
It's more the the microorganisms in the hay and the soil and all of that sort of stuff.
No kidding. Okay. Well, that's so interesting. So can you, what is it? Can you tell, you're diagnosed, you're figuring it out.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to kind of figure it out?
So I quit in January, so New Year's Day. And then I did mobile wedding hairstyling because I thought, okay, if it's the colors, I'll just stop doing color. Yeah. Well, it turns out that it's all the chemicals. And so that was over the summer. And then in October, I went into another lung biopsy. So this was 2015. And I just had to finally give everything up, which really broke me. I'm speaking about it makes me really sad right now too. Wow. But it's called hypersensitivity pneumonitis. So my lungs are overreactive to certain microorganisms. So it can be tiny, tiny things that you can't see. And the best thing for treatment is avoidance, hence why a lot of people have to then get rid of their birds or change their careers. But mine has gotten to the point where I'm in the chronic stage. And so everything is a trigger. And now we're just trying to find a medicine to control it.
So when did it go from being what it was to everything? Was it a slow progressive or was it just an on-off switch?
It's a slow progression, and this is where I said it's a double-edged sword with my lung doctor, Dr. Lopez, is that he was more reactive instead of proactive. So he kept taking me on and off the medicine that was supposed to be a long-term care solution.
Yeah.
And so every time he would take me off of that, something would trigger me and bring me back into an episode of my disease. And so because we weren't doing a good maintenance of it, I'm now in the chronic stage.
Wait, it could have gone differently?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. That's why I actually last fall got a second opinion at National Jewish, which is nation's leading lung research hospital here in Denver.
Wow. How does that make you feel?
Pretty mad because it was one of those things that I know he meant well. He just didn't actually know the disease that well. And a lot of his patients in the office were older than me by a lot. So it's hard to not, his goal was maintenance and to keep me where I was at. Whereas my new doctor said that he will only see the medicine as a success if I improve my lung capacity and if we can get me weaned off of oxygen, because right now I'm on it basically 24/7.
No kidding. So how does your daily life look? Because there's smells everywhere. I mean, even if you go to a restaurant and they wipe down the table with cleaner, you can smell pine
Well,
sol and bleach and Fabuloso. So how does that work?
thankfully, I keep my house. It's all about maintenance of what I see the most, and it's not so much like it's long-term exposure that triggers me. So this last summer, we had a lot of forest fire smoke in Denver, so I had to stay inside a lot because that's one of my triggers. And so it's one of those long-term exposures, not like an immediate thing.
Okay, got it. And then do you go in and out of sick and healthy, or how does that look on a daily, weekly basis?
It's more of a yearly basis. I'll feel good. And it's always during the winter that I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling better because there's not a lot of my allergies outside.
Yes. So
And
right
so,
now you're doing great.
no, we're right now still trying to figure it out, but
Okay.
but I am feeling better than I have in
Better.
a while. Yeah.
Wow. So how long have you been dealing with this? How many years?
On and off for 7 years.
7 years. And you had to pivot like a lot from the industry you were in to the industry you were at. I want to mention you had sent me some pictures of
Special effects makeup. Yeah.
yes, this is amazing stuff. So this was
just for fun to be a chameleon.
But this was like before, I mean, you were still kind of like in the industry here, right? Or is this now?
Nope, this was when I was still kind of in the industry. This is last year or 2 years ago.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So working with this stuff, which you obviously have a huge talent for, is not something that you can do long term because of the smells.
I can't do daily exposure to the chemicals that would be around this.
Wow. Do you ever think about isn't there like some sort of hyperallergenic smellless?
I did look into doing that for the wedding style stuff, but it's just it was at a point that it didn't feel worth it.
Okay.
To do at a detriment to my health.
Wow.
And my longevity.
Yeah, because this I mean,
that was 1980s zombie prom.
Yeah, is this you or is this somebody else?
That's me.
And you did this to yourself?
Yeah.
I mean, that is just so cool. That's so cool. I can see how you would get a little emotional because that's a serious talent.
Thank you.
However, you are still creative. You're still doing creative stuff.
Yeah.
So what are you doing now?
So I went back to school at MSU Denver, which is actually a local, more state school than DU, which is a private university. And I went back to school for graphic design. And I freelanced for the theater department to do one of their show designs. And the chair of the department at that time, Scott Lubinsky, hired me on the spot to be their in-department graphic designer, office manager, office admin, student advocate.
Wow. How did that happen? Did you just flash him your portfolio or?
I went in to present my show design for actually Chicago back here. And he was the director, and they had just had their office manager walk out on them without any notice. And he asked if I needed a job or wanted an office job. And I had just spent the whole summer putting in 80 plus almost 90 applications with no's or no answers for graphic design jobs. So it kind of fell into my lap.
No kidding. So for individuals that are, dealing with something similar to this or anything that would cause you to kind of lose, there's so many ailments and diagnoses that people go through, and they're dealing with. When you first found this out, you left. And then you mentioned that you actually did a few different things before dropping into graphic design. Do you mind kind of talking about that little snippet of your life and kind of what it looked like from the outside, what you were doing, and then also inside mentally, what you were kind of dealing with?
Yeah, that was very interesting time in my life. I had my ex-boyfriend, I was with him, and I had known him for a while, and I'd been with him for like 3 years. And he was there for my first lung biopsy, and he just wasn't supportive, and we had a whole lot of drama happen. So while quitting the salon, was with him, then also breaking up with him.
Oh.
And then moving out. And so it was a lot of change all at one time. And then I started working at Hoppa, which is a sushi restaurant here in Denver that loved working for them. It was so much fun. I made some really great lifelong friends. And that's actually how I met my now fiance. We worked across the street from each other.
Really? I knew you were engaged, but what?
Yeah, we worked across the street from each other for like 8 months, and I never met him. And then 2 weeks after I broke up with my ex, I met him, and it's been
just like on the street?
No, my bartender introduced us one time when I came in to get a paycheck and some dinner.
Was it like, did you feel?
We just kind of hung out.
Did you feel an immediate lust for him? Or
so what's funny is that I found a receipt on the ground, and I didn't remember what his name was. And his last name is Mayo, and I made fun of his name to his face without knowing that it was his. And then he's like, "Oh, I know, funny name, right? That's mine." I'm like, "Oh, so it's universe karma that I am not taking his last name."
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yes.
But it was such a great supportive thing that he makes me laugh every day. Even that summer, everything was so hard that summer, but like being with him really helped.
That's awesome.
And then, so I was doing the travel wedding hairstyling, and then that fall in like September, I had to quit that, and then I went full back time to Hoppa, and was just trying to figure out my health. And I was in a new apartment, so it was easier for me to maintain a healthy lifestyle at home by myself.
100%. So I love that you, not necessarily love, but I appreciate that you didn't, even though obviously dreams are crushed, but you got up and you continued to navigate and pivot through, to hold yourself accountable for being a human being and realizing that you have to pivot and you have to just keep going. You can't just fall apart.
Yeah,
And
it was one
yeah.
of those big life moments that I realized that it's never, because I always was a perfectionist. And
Hmm.
so it was one of those moments where I learned that life isn't perfect. Things aren't going to work out the way you wanted, and that's okay. And it's okay if you didn't do it right, or if you need to keep moving forward. So just trying to learn how to actually pivot without it meaning it's a bad thing.
Yeah,
Just more
100%.
means I wasn't meant to do that.
100%. And with I mean, are you actually doing graphic design, like the creative? So
Yeah,
that has to be, I mean, at least, that has to be very,
it's awesome. I love it. I
yeah.
love it so much because I still get to do web coding that I love, and then I still do all of the poster designs. And then in the spring, the class, we have an internship style class in the graphic design department that I went to, that they do two of our posters too. So I get to kind of field that forward too, and still have that great connection to what got me the job, was that
Yes.
internship style class.
Yes. So I loved how when you talked about doing hair and you were like, I totally loved it because you're like basically transforming, or you're making these women really feel good. And the cool thing about what you're doing now is you're doing that for like an entire, community or industry or business or whatever it is that you're working on at that moment. And again, still creating such happiness,
Yeah,
you
I also
know?
love that as the office manager and I'm the office admin, I do work a lot with the students. So I get to take care of the students in situations that I wish I had had someone like me for. So
Awesome.
someone closer to my age, not so intimidating, hopefully not so intimidating, approachable, hopefully. I try.
Yes, yes, that's awesome. I love that. So during all of this and the journey through this and where you are now, what actions did you take mentally to kind of overcome this?
So a lot of it was allowing myself to be angry at what I am dealing with. Like, it's okay to be angry,
Love
but
that.
I can't be angry at the people around me because it's not their fault, obviously. So it's one of those things I'm still trying to constantly learn, is that when I'm in pain or I am struggling physically or health wise, to make sure that the anger I feel isn't taken out on anyone around me. Still trying,
Absolutely.
still human, but still trying.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then as far as any sort of counseling or therapy or reading or books, have you kind of dove into any of that?
Yeah, I have. I did a lot of those, like, there's one, it's by the Try Guys, it's the hidden power of fucking up. I actually really enjoy.
No kidding, I've never heard of this.
Yeah, so I watch a lot of, like, I watch a lot of YouTube just because I have to have something in the background for noise when I'm designing or if I'm like working. And so the book is all about them making a goal for themselves, trying to do it, and then being okay with that. They're where they ended up. If it does match where they're aiming for, that's great. But if it doesn't, still great because you did something, you created something.
100%. That's
And then
awesome.
I found a amazing therapist like 3.5 years ago,
Mhm.
who I was seeing her. I go back and forth between seeing her every week to every other week to a month, once a month, depending on where I'm at with my mental, like, issues, I would say, or like my health issues. But she's amazing. She's phenomenal. It feels like I'm talking to one of my friends, but she's also very direct and doesn't let me say like false things or hold on to false ideas. She's very real.
That's awesome. How long did it take? Was she like your first therapist, or did you have to kind of go through one or
I've
two
gone
to
through a
find her?
few.
Okay.
So when I moved down here, I saw one while I was in college at DU, and he was great. It was harder to relate to him, but he was great. And
Mhm.
then while I was going to school here at Metro, we do have health insurance included in our tuition if you don't present your own. And with that health insurance, you get access to the health center, which is health and mental. So they have therapists on call. And so I went and spoke with him. And it's nothing against him. He was more tackling what's happening right now. And whereas my therapist now started all the way back when I was a kid and then moved all the way forward.
Yes. Yes, 100%. Because so many of us, this situation that you're dealing with or not, we all have stuff that we, dealt with when we were younger that you kind of have to sift through. So that's awesome.
And it's not saying that I had a hard childhood. It was more things that like I didn't process correctly, or I didn't realize those correctly, like affected something in the future because trust me, I love my childhood. I love my parents. Awesome. I love my sister. They've done so much to assist me to get here because I'm 31 and my parents helped me a lot.
Wow.
Like paying for school.
Wow.
All 3 times. I was like, okay, I'm sorry. And I'm going to be paid. And that was the other thing too, is that I just kept saying sorry to them. They're like, this is what we're here for. You're not just going to fall down and we're not going to we're going to be here to help you back up.
That's great. That's great. If you could pick 2 things that you learned from therapy that you think everyone needs to know, what would those 2 things be?
So a lot of the things that I have worked on with therapy was my relationship with people around me. And so if I do have hurt feelings, I try and focus on saying it from the I feel this way instead of well, you did this to me. It's I feel this way about this situation because blame is never going to solve anything. And that's one of those things that I've definitely tried to implement more. And then there's like a 2A and then 2B.
Okay.
So I would say 2A is waiting to figure out the issues because everyone tells you don't go to sleep angry, but that's not actually a good thing to think about because if you are still angry, you're never going to get anywhere. You're never going to be able to discuss it. So it is okay to wait, take some space on an argument or drama or hurt feelings, take some space and then come back to it later. Even if it's like 2 days or like 2 weeks, as long as you communicate your needs or communicate, hey, I want to fix this, but I got to take some time to calm down.
Yeah.
And then the 2B is also letting yourself be angry, sad, emotional, but only for like a set time. And then once you're past that set time, you're going to move on past it and you're going to have to find some way to talk to somebody that isn't obviously the person that's affecting you or the thing that's affecting you. So it's finding that person that you can vent to because I have learned that I have different relationships for different things. So my fiance was getting very bogged down in the fact that I would come to him with everything, just everything, which then would affect him and affect his mental health and his day and everything like that. And so it's okay that he's not the person I go to for every single thing.
Nice. I love that.
Because he's not there to fix it. We're here to be partners and equals, not my savior.
So how did you in your personal experience, how did you fix or mend that?
It definitely took a good part of the last 3 years to figure out that it's okay to not go to him for everything. So I've got my group of girlfriends, which actually I saw one of them message that she was watching right now. And so I've got my solid group of girlfriends that I know I can go and talk to. And they're also able to tell me, hey, I'm dealing with a lot right now. Like, I'll check back in with you. And I'm like, that's fine. Or I'll call my sister or I'll call my mom or I'll call my dad. And I also message my therapist. If I feel like I really need to talk about it, I'll message her and be like, can we meet sooner, please?
I love the open communication with that because I think a lot of people are lacking that in their relationships as far as being comfortable enough to be able to say that to their partner and then actually go through the steps of, mending that the way you did. So that's super commendable.
Thanks. Like I said, though, I'm still human. There's days where
Oh, yeah.
don't hear him like I should.
Yeah, of course.
Don't respect his boundaries like I should.
Of course. As far as just for my own personal knowledge,
Yeah.
as far as what you said earlier about not going to bed angry, because I have a thought process on that too.
Mm-hmm.
So can you expand on that? Are you talking about you and your fiance? Or are you talking about you and your best friend? Or who are you talking about when you say that?
It's kind of any relationship. So obviously I paraphrased it with don't go to bed or angry, which focuses on my fiance. It's also one of those things that are, my therapist said, if you can't hold hands while talking about things, you don't need to be talking about things. But it's like with my friends, obviously we don't go to bed together, but they do deserve to have space too if we get angry. I've had a friend that has asked for time so that she could process her thoughts. It was hard. It sucked. It hurt my feelings, but I respect her for saying it because it saved us from saying something that we could regret.
100%. Yeah. All growing up, we've always been told to not go to bed angry. It's like this thing that people say, and it's known as being like from the doctors, like therapists will say that. But I do things differently. I don't think, as long as we're not fuming to like ridiculousness,
Yeah.
I think that we have to go to sleep. Do you know what I mean? Like you need to be able to get your sleep to be able to function as a human being the next day.
I think also just getting a reset on a lot of things.
Yes.
You can get another view on it alone.
Yes.
Including if you feel like you might be overreacting, which I don't subscribe to saying I'm overreacting. My therapist said I'm not allowed to apologize for my health stuff, and I'm not allowed to say I'm overreacting. You still need to validate that you have feelings, but find a healthy way to speak about them from a calm way, and it'll usually get resolved better.
100%. But yeah, I love that you're saying that, because I think that we need to give ourselves a little more leniency and patience with that, because sometimes we are just tired, and sometimes we're overreacting even more because we are tired.
Yep.
And, getting it, just saying good night, and we're not like forcefully, angrily going to bed and refusing, but just literally saying like, hey, can we just table this tonight? Communicate that, knowing that, wake up, and then maybe after work or whatever it is, we can reconvene. So not that we're throwing it in the garbage and feelings don't matter, but just like, hey, we're humans and we need to be able to get enough sleep to be able to function correctly, mentally and emotionally. Because I know sometimes when I get tired, I'm just mad because I'm tired now.
Well, and I've definitely taken pointers from my fiance when it comes to being able to still interact with people, even though there's something you want to deal with, and coming back to it later. And that was one of the things that we had to discuss, was that we put things on pause, but we have to return back to it. We have to make sure that that's known, is that we're coming back to it.
Yeah.
And if we have to set like a certain time, that's fine.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to ask this. What are some hobbies that you've taken up recently?
So this last summer, actually over quarantine, I started playing with epoxy resin. So I've been making a lot of stuff out of that. And I had a friend who wanted to go full-time into being an artist this summer, and our CBD company, we're in a bunch of farmers markets. So I was like, yeah, I'll go in with you on farmer market table. And it was really fun. Actually, it got us out on the weekends, socializing, talking to people we don't know, making really good friends from the farmers markets. And I actually sold a lot of my resin art, especially coming from somebody who thought I would never be a studio artist that could go sell my stuff, I guess.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I was on your Facebook and I saw like a tray or something with these beautiful butterflies and flowers. It was so pretty.
Yep.
That was yours, right?
Fast. Yeah.
That is so cool.
And then because of the epoxy that we use, it's actually food safe too.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And then your friend sells CBD. Is that what you just said?
No, my fiance and I own a CBD
Or your
company out
fiance?
of Denver. Yeah. So
Very,
then I was
oh
helping him
yeah.
with that.
Colorado, yes.
Well,
I
we
rem-
actually can sell federally. We can sell to all 50 states just because we have a below the legal amount of THC.
no kidding. Very cool. Yeah, I remember I visited Colorado right when marijuana was legal, literally within like weeks. And it was like chaotic.
Oh yeah.
Everyone was so excited everywhere we went.
I love how they act like they weren't already smoking anyways, but like Colorado definitely was. I went to Boulder for 420.
Oh, it was great. We were literally every, even the babies were smoking. It didn't even matter. Everywhere we went, everyone was just indulging in the goodness because everyone was so excited that
Yep.
it was out and legal and all that jazz. I have never done anything. I've never smoked. I've never even smoked a cigarette. I've never done anything. A lot of people don't necessarily call marijuana a drug anymore, so I don't know how that works. But I've never even done that either. So I don't know what that pull is. But it was definitely interesting being there during that.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's calmed down a little bit now. It's just kind of neutral.
I mean, there's still a dispensary. You could throw a rock and you'll hit a dispensary. They're everywhere.
Wow.
But
Wow.
the CBD that we do, we focus very much on rest and recovery and pain management because my fiance started it about 3.5 years ago. And it's his dream, but also to help get me off of painkillers because of my handful of autoimmune diseases.
Oh, I love that. How is it working?
It's amazing. It helps so much.
Really?
Yep.
So are you kind of like the spokesperson for it?
Yeah.
In a way?
In a way, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Whenever I'm at the farmers markets, I always talk to people about my health issues and why I take them because I'm an open book and I'd rather help people find measures that aren't painkillers.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of times people need help not being in pain so they can sleep.
That's interesting. You want to give him a plug? What's the name of his company?
Yeah, it's 5280 Holistics.
5280 Holistic.
Holistics.com. Yep.
Very cool. All right. I'll maybe check that out.
Yes.
How do you decide to show up for your world now?
It's interesting. How I show up is making sure that I am staying true to myself and listening to my body. So even if that means not going out even if I want to, or not, and I'm still, like I said, human and still trying not to do this, but not making people feel bad when I can't go do something. And then trying very hard to be in a good mood when I go do stuff too, even if I'm in pain, because guarantee seeing my friends laughing really hard, drinking some wine will make me feel even better, even though I may be tired and don't want to do it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Who is somebody that you look up to?
I'm like, it's definitely a hybrid between my mom and my dad.
Oh, I love that.
They gave me a very special childhood where I traveled a lot and I was a ski racer and I did soccer. And then when I didn't want to ski race anymore, they supported me and let me go snowboarding. And then they've just really been this massive support system, even though, of course, there were times where we butted heads or didn't understand each other, but they really are living like the life that Dave and I want to be, where it's just having the opportunity to do things.
That's awesome. Are they in Colorado?
No, they're actually in Jackson, Wyoming. That's where I'm born and
raised. Oh, Wyoming. Yes, I knew that. Very cool.
Yeah, Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Do you guys get to see them often?
Yeah, actually, my parents were just here at the beginning of the month. I like to see them, especially because my sister lives in Jackson also with
Mhm.
her 2 girls. And so I try and be very present in their life.
Aw.
So we try and see each other a few times a year. Right now it's difficult because I am not allowed to go above Denver's elevation, and Jackson unfortunately is. So
Ah.
this will be the second Christmas that I don't go home in my
Oh, no.
31 years.
How does that feel?
It sucks. It sucks a lot.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I have my fiance and my 2 roommates that are most likely going to be here. I know they'll be here for Thanksgiving, but they'll most likely be here for Christmas. And so at least I'll have the family I made down here.
Yes, that's awesome. So I have to ask,
Mhm.
what were you surprised by the engagement? Was it a surprise or you were
Yeah, it was a
surprised?
complete surprise.
Tell me, tell me.
So, well, he accidentally blurted that he was getting a ring made, which then I was like, okay, well then every time he's like, I'm gonna go hang out with Charlie, I was like, okay, well then I know what you're doing. It was a friend from the farmer's market who 3D prints the cast and then pours the metal and lays all the diamonds and everything. It's a friend of ours now. And so every time we went to hang out with them, I was like, oh, well, I know what you're doing, but had no idea when it was happening or anything. I guess he even had the ring box in his bedside drawer and I'd opened it to like clean because we just moved. I was like, oh, I'm not dealing with that and just closed it. Didn't even look. And
No
so
kidding.
this last summer, I threw myself a birthday party with the help of my friends. And so we did what's called a slip and flip cup competition. So we had a slip and slide to a table where you had to drink and then flip your cup as like
Okay.
teams, a relay race. And so we had my really close friends there. And then we did like a cheers shot because it was an actual birthday. And uh, I thought my friends were just taking photos, but turns out he had my family, his family, our friends across the states and in Europe, my family in Europe. Everybody was on Zoom watching. And so we did our cheers for my birthday. And then he stood me up and told me. And it wasn't even until he got down on one knee. This could make me cry. He got down on one knee and opened the box. And that's when I realized what he was doing. And it was just complete shock.
Wait, was this done outside? Like people were on lawn chairs?
Yep, that
I
video.
saw it.
Yep.
Oh, that's so fun. I didn't even freaking realize that was you.
Yeah, we were
Oh,
moving
I
through to
love
everything.
that. That was just recent.
Yeah, that was my birthday this last July.
Oh,
And he had asked for my
congratulations.
dad's permission. Like it was, yeah, he did everything right. And he blew the ring design because he designed it from the ground up. And
Uh-huh.
so he blew it out of the water of what I could
Oh,
expect.
I love it. It's super
And
beautiful.
it's so me in a ring that I didn't even know existed.
Oh, wait, so how did you give him like a couple like little sprinkles of ideas or he just
Well, ish. So our first
okay.
year anniversary, he gave me this silver watch. It had 36 diamonds and a mother of pearl watch face for our first year anniversary. And I was like, well, don't have to worry about him because he definitely knows my style. And then
Wow.
we were like, we would drink and hang out. And we were like, I'm like, well, what would you get me as a ring for an engagement ring? So I tried to make it less pressury, even though, of course, at times I did get a little too, you need to propose now. And so I'm happy he did it on his time. I'm happy we waited until now when we're in a better emotional stability because it's not like being engaged would have helped anything 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we just jokingly would talk about like what our dream wedding would be, what my ring would be, and like just compare ideas to see if we were like similar.
Awesome. That is so cool. Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
How exciting.
I'm trying to find a venue. It's very hard. It's
Yeah.
very time consuming.
Yeah. Believe me, we got engaged June 2020. Yeah, June 2020. And I haven't done anything. So my excuse was COVID,
Yeah,
like it was literally June 2020. But now it's not really my excuse anymore. And the same thing. It's just like it's so much. It's so much. It's like
yeah,
I told them, I'm like, if somebody else would just do everything, I'll just show up.
I know.
Yeah,
Right?
I'd be good to go. But so much.
Well, congratulations to you too.
Thank you, thank you.
What's funny
But
is I was gonna wait till 2023, but then my dad was like, "I want to party. I don't want to wait that long. I want to party." I'm like, "Okay, let's go."
That's awesome. Well, I totally know what you're going through, and I guess just make it fun.
Trying.
Yeah, make it fun. So I want to ask you one last. Well, first of all, thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
I appreciate you opening up and talking about this subject. I didn't even know this existed, so I
About
appreciate. Yeah,
35% of Americans have my lung disease, and then
wow,
out of that 35%, 5% have the chronic kind that I have.
no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thankfully, I found a support group on Facebook, so I get a lot of feedback and answers instead of just going straight to WebMD, because WebMD, of course, says the life expectancy is 10 years, but then I like talk to other people in the group that have the chronic illness too, and they are like, "Oh no, I was diagnosed like 23 years ago." I'm like, "Okay, good. I'm glad."
Oh, wow. Yeah. So it just you have to kind of like watch what you breathe and eat and drink, or like can you prevent?
It's more what I'm breathing, how it again going back to like how clean my house is. So
Okay.
we just purchased a house this last May, and so
Congrats.
thank you. So thankfully, all of what I need is on the ground floor, so I don't have to do the stairs, which makes it really difficult for me to breathe. And so my doctor just wants me to simplify and then get rid of carpeting.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
We don't have any carpeting. And I say all the time because we sweep, once a month. And I like when we did, I'm like, holy crap. I'll never have carpeting ever again. It's disgusting.
Yep. Well, thankfully, I have very amazing, supportive roommates that try very hard to assist me in keeping the house clean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's
it's mostly
awesome.
just making sure my at home is healthy, that I'm using my oxygen when I feel like I need it, making sure I'm taking my meds on time, and then it's just making sure it's clean. And then if the air pollution is really bad, I can't go outside, unfortunately. And thankfully, my job allows me to work from home if I need to for health reasons.
Got it. Well, that's so awesome. Well, listen, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad that you decided to share your story and highlight all of this. For those that are enduring and for those that are clueless like myself. So I appreciate that. I do have one last question that I want to ask you before we close up here. And I want to kind of gear it towards females who are listening right now who are enduring something similar to this,
Yeah.
who've had their heart set on a certain life and it's all mapped out, and then they get handed something totally different than what they were expecting. What are some encouraging words that you could give to them right now?
I would say that if you got handed something that changes what you viewed as your future, it's most likely because something better is on the way. Because I wouldn't have what I have now if the things that happened in the last 7 years didn't happen.
Wow.
I wouldn't be with Dave. I wouldn't have my 2 dogs. I wouldn't have my career. Wouldn't have my house. It would look completely different, and I wouldn't change a single thing.
No shit. I freaking love that. I
Yeah.
love that. And I love that that is your advice because people need to know that.
There's always good. Trust me, I get a lot of the extremes on both ends. That I get extreme bad, but damn is the good so good.
Yes.
It's so good. It's so rewarding. And
Aw.
trust me, there's good out there. And if you need anybody to reach out to, feel free to reach out to me. I love supporting people. And actually, Sabrina and I found each other in a women's empowering
Yeah.
women group. And I've
Yeah.
made some really great friends from there just by talking.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I love the story. I love that you took some time to share with us. I appreciate you and what you're creating over there. Congratulations to you and your fiance and
Thank
your
you.
house and a ring.
I
So,
know. It was a lot in one summer. It really was.
I love every little bit of it. Do you have any closing thoughts before we close up?
No, I think it's really just, I know a lot of people are like, I don't know how you're so positive and you just keep going. And it's like, well, life's too good to lose. So I don't really have a choice but to keep going forward and just know that you have people to support you. You just have to look for them.
Absolutely. Yes. 100%. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Her Version. For those of you that are listening live and those of you that are listening on the replay. If you have an amazing story to share of struggle to triumph, be sure to reach out to me here or at herversion.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others like Miss Shelby here. Do something awesome today. Much love.